Mr. Gotke, you have done how much of your sentence? 7 years? You've been in prison this time for 7 years, is that correct?
No, sir. 10 years.
You were habitually, your sentence, your habitual offender sentence was in 2014, is that right?
Yes, sir. I was in the jail 2011 up until that date.
Tell me a little bit about the programs that you have done while you've been in prison.
Well, I really haven't done any. When I was at Jonesboro, I was on maintenance, and they didn't have any type of programs there but GED, and I couldn't participate in that because I already had my GED. But I worked on maintenance there, and then I asked the warden to ship me to DOC, and he sent me to Allen Correctional Center, and I worked in the cell blocks from there.
You have been convicted a number of times. Although you're a sixth offender, you've actually been charged and convicted for many, many felonies. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about those. In 1988, you were charged with tampering a motor vehicle. You were placed on probation. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
How'd that end?
I went through the probation. I cleared.
Didn't get revoked?
No, sir. I don't
You
believe it.
didn't get rearrested and get revoked? You don't remember that?
80. That was 88.
1988.
I can't remember that far back, sir.
2090, you were placed on probation. In 2090, while on probation, you were convicted of numerous felonies and sentenced to 6 years. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 1993, you were ultimately paroled and transferred to New Orleans. You remember that?
Yes, sir, I do.
And then in 1994, you were arrested for and convicted for a business burglary and got 2.5 years in New Orleans. You remember that?
Yes, sir, I do.
You paroled and went back to North Carolina.
No,
And you got revoked.
I stayed here.
You got revoked because of new convictions.
Yes.
In 2010, you got a parole discharge and you went to Lafayette. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then in 2011, while on parole, you got arrested for 2 counts of simple burglary and got revoked in 2011. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
How many felonies have you actually been convicted of altogether?
I really couldn't tell you, sir. I have no idea.
25, 30?
Possible.
Why should I vote to give you an early termination? You have not performed very well at all on supervision. Every time you've gotten out, you've committed more crimes and been sentenced back to go to prison.
Well, I lost my leg, so I'm in a wheelchair. I have cirrhosis of the liver, so I can't drink or do anything anymore. And I have grandkids I haven't seen, and I'd like to sit at home with my girls and my grandkids and try to help them as much as I can about not getting locked up and doing what's right, you know.
Well, why should I believe that that will happen?
Well, I know I've hurt a lot of people by doing what I did. Because, they was trying to do for their family, and I interrupted their lives with breaking into their business. And
Mr. Gotke, your record suggests that when you were charged with these 3 burglaries, which led to your habitual offender status, you
Yes.
were on good time parole release for 22 other felonies. Is that accurate?
What they actually did, they cleared the books on me. So anything that happened in areas that I was at, I had to sign a plea agreement.
So they messed you over. They made you admit to all the crimes they couldn't solve. Is that what you're telling me?
Half of them, yes. The other half, I was drinking and taking pills, so I really don't know what I did and what I didn't do.
Well, how is that going to change?
Well,
Why should I believe that's going to change? You haven't taken any programs. You haven't done anything to address your pill taking and drinking. Why should that suggest to me that that's going to change?
Well, I'm in a program called the Pillars. It's a group of bunch of guys that try to get their lives straight. I've been to the AA and NA meetings here before this COVID thing hit. I've been to reentry and parenting and that stuff. I have a certificate here. And then I haven't had any write-ups for about 15 months.
Tell me about your write-ups. What were your write-ups for?
For fighting. They have no tolerance for even push and shove, which that's what it was. And
well, one of your write-ups was for contraband. What was that for?
Smoking some dip.
One was aggravated fighting. What is that about? What's the difference between fighting and aggravating fighting?
I have no idea. I didn't know that I was got wrote up for aggravated fighting.
Judge Maribel?
Yes.
There are 2 write-ups, a number 10 for fighting and a number 11 for aggravated fighting. Aggravated fighting is when that offender initiated the encounter.
I follow you.
Yeah.
What have you done you said a lot of these crimes were committed because you used pills and such. What kind of drugs have you used in the past?
Mostly pills, painkillers, and drinking. Which the nurses and the doctors here told me that if I want to keep living, then I can't drink or do any pills or anything else, any type of drugs, because I have that cirrhosis of the liver, and they explained to me how the liver works. So in order to watch my grandkids grow up, I can't do it. Plus, I don't want to die.
All right, I think that's all the questions that I have.
Mrs. Wise.
Okay, sir, how long have you been in the wheelchair now?
A little bit over 2 years.
So that would be in 2017?
The beginning of 2018, I believe it was.
At the January or so of 2018.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was due to what?
My leg was broken in half, and my hip was broke, my left hip, and they couldn't fix my leg. So on the third surgery, they had to amputate it, and they fixed my hip.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
So you'll be you'll be getting into disability if you're successful today. Your plan is to seek disability benefits.
Yes, ma'am.
Have they started that process there in classification?
No,
Okay.
no, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I did see that you did have a hospital stay in 2018. So I think it must have been 2018.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I was just curious I think in North Carolina, the day May 24th of 2011 mean anything to you?
May 24th,
Of 2011.
2011. No, ma'am.
You were in North Carolina.
Yes, ma'am.
And it seems like you went on a crime spree that day and broke in about 3 places.
Yes.
Is
I
it
don't
coming back to you now?
know, ma'am. It's I have a hard memory.
Okay.
I was in a car wreck and it split my skull back and give me a blood clot in my brain, bruised my heart, broke some ribs, broke my knee, crushed my ankle. So it's a little hard for me to remember way back then.
Okay. So it sounds like it's a miracle that you're alive.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you don't treat the miracle too well, but it sounds like it was. But on that day, according to the records that I read, I can't view the records right now because of the way the screens are set up. I mean, you burglarized about 3 businesses in one day. And I just, that just really stood out in my mind. I wrote down crime spree on that day.
Right.
I don't know if anybody told you, but all law enforcement, they was contacted about your current conviction or opposed to your early release. They're against your early release. And you have 1 victim that's against your release and 1 victim who is not. Again, there's nothing you can do about that. I just want you to be aware, of the information that we have to consider. I just wanted to inform you of that.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I had, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Ward, would you like to make any comments or remarks?
Oh, yes, sir. Offender Gaki report, conduct report does indicate that he had 3 write-ups in 2019. And one of the write-ups was March the 2nd, which was a 10 instead of 11, aggravated fight. It was changed on his conduct record, where he did receive a suspension for that particular write-up. And also he received a Rule 4, which was March the 15th, if I'm looking at it right. And he received 3 days loss of canteen privileges. And April the 18th, which was his last write-up, he also received a Rule number 4, which was disobedient, which he received a sanction of 4 days, no yard. And I do see where he got a certificate that he completed for 100 hours of pre-release. And pretty much that's all I have on it. And he also is a Pride member. of Dixon.
So what he made prior in April, I guess, huh? Or May, as it should be.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Which was the date on it?
May the 15th, 2020.
Okay. Yeah, he just, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Warden.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gaki,
Yes, sir.
would you like to make a final statement?
Yes. I know my record looks bad. I've been on the street since I was 14, uneducated, can't spell, can barely read. And so when I was growing up, we was very poor. We didn't have nothing. So to get money, I started breaking in, and it became a vicious cycle of breaking in stuff, taking money. And I know it was wrong, and I heard a lot of people over the years by doing it, but I wasn't caring about nobody but myself. And now that I've been locked up 10 years, I do a lot of thinking, and if I could repay them people, I would. My mom only gave me one good advice. She told me to get a job in the kitchen. You never go hungry. So I became a chef. And so I haven't been hungry so far.
Amen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Marabella,
Mr. Gotke,
Yes, sir.
based upon your very lengthy criminal history, you don't even remember half of the crimes that you committed. The records reflect that you were out. You tell me, well, I pled to a bunch of things just so they can clean up their files, but you were out on 22 separate felonies when you were revoked at one point. Your supervision history is abysmal. Every time you got out, you came back in. Your risk assessment is scored as moderate. That surprises me, but that's what it says. And you've had numerous write-ups over the last 5 years for contraband, fighting, two fightings and a disobedience. The judge, all law enforcement officials, and most victims are vehemently opposed to your release. Based upon all of those things, I'm going to vote to deny your parole.
Ms. Wise.
Mr. Benjamin, as has been stated, you had 3 write-ups last year. I urge you to, you finally made prize. You know, I just urge you to kind of stay the course of where you are and write back as soon as you're eligible for a rehearing. But today I agree with my colleague, and my vote is to deny for the reasons already been stated on the record.
Mr. Gaki?
Yes, sir.
I am in full agreement with Mr. Marabella. Your supervision history is abominable. Your extensive criminal background, and most of all, that was in the past. With the 7 write-ups that you received in the last 3 years between 2016 and 2019 is totally unacceptable. When you're incarcerated for 9 years, you said 10, but your master record says 9. I want to see some improvement. If those disciplinary write-ups were 6, 7 years ago, I can say this offender has improved his behavior. but you've had 7 disciplinary write-ups in the 3 years, 2016 and 2019. It's unacceptable. For those reasons, I agree with my colleagues and vote to deny your request. You have received 3 votes to deny your request. Your request for early release has been denied. You have a good day.
You too.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up a crime, which I don't know how they didn't bring this one up, because to me, I think it's the most standout crime that he did, and that was that he had stolen an unmarked police car and drove 1,800 miles. He escaped Louisiana inmate. It was all over the news, and it's just so interesting that they didn't bring this up. And I wonder if this crime had anything to do with the length of his sentence, or I mean, it could have been him having like 1.5 million felonies. And then I'll also go over after this a lawsuit that he filed against the prison for why he lost his leg. And frankly, I'm pretty upset about how he lost his leg, and we'll touch into that. Thank you, Richard, for providing all this information. So a Louisiana sheriff is reportedly unsure how an escaped inmate stole and drove an unmarked police car 1,800 miles across the country, but claims it won't happen again. Benjamin was a trustee in the Tennessee Sheriff's Office kitchen. It's interesting how he mentioned the kitchen part. How his mother, that was an interesting finishing statement. It was like, what? Become a chef, so you're not hungry, and I'm not hungry. But it's like, well, you're in prison too. When he acquired keys to an unmarked police vehicle last week and escaped. So let's go. Gotke, who had about 9 months remaining on his sentence. He only had 9 months remaining. I mean, who does that? Who does that? 9 months remaining on a sentence. That's just, it's just, it's like the impulse control thing. Although I tell you, all the crimes that he's done, I don't have like a strong animosity towards him. He hasn't hurt children. I didn't see anything in there with the weapon, but it could be that, who knows. A Louisiana man was back in police custody. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be locked up, but for all his felonies, I'm just saying I don't feel like an anger towards him. A Louisiana man was back in police custody after town-wide manhunt Saturday. He had been at large Thursday when he escaped the Kansas Parish Detention Center, Waterproof, Louisiana, where he was being incarcerated for burglary. Godkin made his initial appearance in County District Court Monday when he was arrested. His extradition back to Louisiana, according to Assistant District Attorney Kurt Kafferlin. Godke requested a formal hearing, which is presently stated for August 7th. He is charged in Maine with being a fugitive from justice and resisting arrest. At the hearing, the state will be required to show with certified documents that there is an outstanding warrant. Wow, thank you for this insightful information. Let's see what else they have to say about this. If there's anything interesting. I wonder why he drove to Maine. So he escaped from a Kansas Parish Detention Center Thursday. He stole a 2002 white Ford Crown Victoria. It's interesting, the 2002 white Ford Crown Victoria, and this was dated in 2012. The classic Crown Victoria unmarked police cruiser. He was serving time for burglary and had 9 months left on his sentence. He was also soon to be eligible for work release. It's like he just can't help himself but get in trouble, Exactly how he was able to finance his roughly 2,000-mile trip to Holton, a 3-day journey, would require multiple stops for refueling as well as overnight stays, was not known. Well, I mean, he could have slept in the police cruiser, but I'm sure he, a robbery or two got him there. At 2:35 Saturday, the suspect presented himself for inspection. The CBP officer requested identification when the suspect indicated he did not have anything to present. She said when the CBP officer requested the suspect to turn the vehicle's ignition off and to see the vehicle's registration, the suspect accelerated the vehicle and fled the port. Heading south on I-95, officers contacted their sister agencies, the U.S. Border Patrol and the Holton Air Branch, as well as law enforcement partners, the U.S. Border Patrol, ATV K-9, and Foot Patrol. Holton Air Branch provided air support, working in conjunction with the Holton Police Department. So this is saying how they caught him. At approximately 3:30 p.m., Border Patrol agents located the abandoned vehicle at the Irving truck stop. The search then shifted for the individual on foot, and the individual had fled to the port. Holton police were not aware of any escaped individual in the state. It wasn't until they located the vehicle that they learned the vehicle had been stolen. Notices were put through the local television, radio stations, as well as the social networking site Facebook. Those reports warned people that he was armed and dangerous. Was he armed? And somewhere in Holton, Gunke was reportedly seen working through a number of residential streets before his apprehension. The sergeant Krause observed a man armed with only a stick. He ordered him to drop the stick. He did not. He was actually brandishing the stick like it was a baseball bat and told the officer he would have to shoot him. Wow. The officer advised him several times to put the stick down, but he refused. He then made a move towards the sergeant, at which point he deployed his taser. Oh, he's lucky that the sergeant didn't use his weapon, right? Despite being hit with the stun gun, he continued to resist and was stunned a second time, and he managed to be subdued before additional backup could arrive. It seemed he just wanted to end everything, you know? He will now be charged with aggravated escape, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, as well as fugitive of justice and resisting arrest. This is a great example, blah, blah, blah. So we get that story. For whatever reason, the board didn't mention it. And maybe this is where he picked up a bajillion felonies. They probably hit him with like every felony in the book, and gave him the 20-year sentence. And really, they could have probably given him even more. But now let's go over that lawsuit. The lawsuit. So, and I don't like saying this. It to me, this is just disturbing that people would treat human beings this way, no matter how, you know. But it does seem to me that the prison is fully responsible for why he lost his leg. And they always say, don't get hurt in prison, you know, because bad things can happen. But you shouldn't be losing your leg. So an unidentified prison official failed to protect him from an attack by another inmate after he requested to be moved from his dormitory. There was a delay in them transferring him to the hospital following the attack. So one thing is that he knew he was going to get attacked. He asked to be moved. They didn't move him. And then he was attacked. Now, you know, you hear those things happen all the time. But then after he was attacked, this is where it really gets upsetting, is that they didn't move him to the hospital. So his left leg became infected. And then they had to amputate it below the knee. And that's just not cool, man. Like, you know, are there details of this that we're not aware? Did he get hit in the leg and didn't tell anyone that it was getting infected? Did he not go to the nurse? I mean, there could be information that we don't know. But if they knew straight up that his leg was starting to, you know, get infected and they did nothing, that's... these allegations fail to state the failure to protect claim. He did not show that, but of course they denied it. So he did not show in his suit that any identified state actor was aware of articulated facts giving rise to an inference where he was exposed to substantial risk or harm, while also deliberately ignoring his need for protection. And I don't know, how does he prove that? He writes a notarized letter to the CO, hey, help me out. I mean, asking to be moved even from one cell block to another, from my understanding, is not a simple thing. You can't have other inmates know that you're afraid, and that you're requesting a move. Like, that in itself is trouble. But Additionally, he fails to state a deliberate indifference claim. He did not identify any state actor aware of his injuries. He deliberately delayed transporting him to the hospital following the attack, nor did he allege any facts, just his own opinion, showing that he alleged delay causing his lung infection and subsequent amputation. Further, he failed to identify any state actor who acted with deliberate indifference in the provision of medical care at his present place of incarceration. So the complaint counts as a strike. Pursuant is warned that if he accumulates 3 strikes, he will not be allowed to proceed in forma in any civil actions of appeal. He is incarcerated, detained in any facility unless he is under imminent danger of serious physical injury. So he files a lawsuit, and not only do they deny his lawsuit, but they actually give him a strike. I didn't know this was a thing, and apparently 3 strikes, you lose your ability. And I guess they put that in place as a way to stop frivolous civil suits, which makes sense. But he probably needed a proper counsel. Maybe he just had an inmate, jailhouse lawyer who didn't put that much effort in this. Also, calling out specific people in a lawsuit probably has a lot of risk that comes with it. We have seen people sue wardens and name people in the complaints, and man, I'd be afraid to do that. I would be, but the idea that you would get attacked in prison, and then after the attack, it result in an amputation because of an infection, that's just scary and not okay. But thank you, Richard, for the info. And with that,